All right, up next for our first exclusive interview of the day, I'd first like to bring onto the stage McKay, publisher of French Toast, who will be conducting our interview. Everyone, a round of applause, warm welcome for JJ. That's what we like to hear. Thank you very much. A few woos every now and again is very nice to hear. And then our interviewee, Mr. Robert Fireman, CEO at MariMed. Let's give a big round of applause. Get those woos out. Come on.
Thank you. Well, one, we want to do a big shout out to all of y'all because you're here today at a phenomenal conference, having an opportunity to learn cutting edge information. I encourage everyone that's here to try not to see this as a room full of strangers, but see it as a room full and a conference full of potential knowledge and things that will move you and your company forward. And that's what Benzinga is all about. I own and run the Fresh Toast. We're the largest consumer voice. We produce all sorts of cannabis and CBD content daily. Share it out on our site, share it to our 1.5 million social media followers, and then we syndicate it to newspapers around North America. So about 1 million people see our content every day. And I'm thrilled to be interviewing Bob and to start everything off. So let's get started so we can just pack this full of questions and knowledge. So let's just jump right into it. Tell us about MariMed, what's going on right now.
Thank you, JJ. First of all, good to see you again.
Always good to see you.
He and I are veterans of these sorts of conferences for the last 7 to 10 years. God. Five, all right. Well, I've been in it longer. And I thank Benzinga for conducting such a great conference and providing all this great data to everybody. I think snapshot of MariMed is that we're a public company. We trade on the OTCQX under the symbol MRMD. We've been a validated team. I think what makes us unique is our core management team has been together over 10 years. We started as an advisory consulting company, and we, in that vein, we won 17 licenses in 6 states. We developed over 300,000 square feet of state-of-the-art production, cultivation, dispensaries. We developed best practices, state-of-the-art proprietary products and brands. And at some point around 2018, we decided that we would merge into a public shell, which we did, and to take our story to the public market. So with all that in place, we had a strategic plan. In 2020, we had a transformational year where we rolled 2 of the 5 states into our public company so we could report that revenue. That allowed us to grow to 51 million in revenue and 17 million in EBITDA. That sustained revenue in 2020 has led us into 2021, where we're doubling our revenue and gave guidance for the first time. I think we just increased our guidance to 118 million and our projected adjusted EBITDA to $42 million for this year alone. The other unique part about us, we took on some equity this year. We paid off all our debt but bank mortgages. We're uniquely, as a cannabis MSO, we're positively cash flowing. We have capital in the bank, and we're fully funded to implement a strategic plan that we're doing right now.
And see, and this is what I mean when I say, don't be afraid to talk to people. Bob and his team do a variety of things, being operators, building stuff, and going public. So there's lots of learnings that you can get from around this conference with the people who are driving success like Bob. So, I mean, talk about a great 5 years, and especially in the middle of COVID, doubling your income. That's incredible. But let's get back to a little bit more about you. How did you decide to jump into all this? Jumping into an industry that was really 10 years ago cutting edge.
It was. And to most of us, it's still cutting edge. Who knows where it's all going?
Although Fox News readers believe that it should be legalized.
That's right. And how much? That's only 30% of the population.
That's only, but 61% of Fox News viewers believe it should be legalized. So it shows it's becoming more mainstream.
Myself, I've been as an attorney, a serial entrepreneur, a political activist. I think over the last few decades, I've been involved in causes that, affect and improve the lives of people. One of the entrepreneurial things that I was doing was a company called Sky Vegetables, where we were going to develop the urban sustainable agriculture industry. We're going to put farms on top of the roofs of the city and provide fresh local food all year round, whether it's New York, Chicago, or Boston. Whole Foods led me out to California, and I started to learn about the cannabis industry, and I saw those kids in the streets of San Francisco and around California fighting for legalization of medical marijuana. So when that came back east, we decided we would get in. And I think that's at the core. At the core of, at the heart of MariMed is our mission. It is a mission to take our products and our action and provide a benefit through cannabis to help improve people's lives and well-being. It's not always about the money. Early on, when you see mothers with epileptic children, with their pediatric oncologists and doctors, and you're giving them CBD, first you better make sure that you know how to produce something that's consistent and professional. But when you see the relief that people get from epilepsy or MS or Parkinson's or even anxiety and nausea, I think that's where this industry is going. It needs to be more mainstream. We need more peer review medical research, and we need to take some of the folklore that's going on and turn it into trusted medical knowledge.
Well, that is remarkable to be able to use your giving back to help make such a huge impact with people who really don't have a lot of opportunity. You know, the thing about medical marijuana, it is still a journey and it still needs to have more access. So all of us today are advocates to help more, especially kids, have better treatments that help them lead more normal lives. So as we talk, Bob's done a lot, but one of the things that we kind of glossed over, you didn't talk about your brands. You also have several leading brands that do really well, including Betty's Eddies. So share a little bit what's going on there.
Brands are important. At the end of the day, MSOs and other cannabis companies need to look more like consumer packaged goods. Branding and distribution will ultimately determine the winners in our industry. At MariMed, quality and trust is our most important elements. On our flower brand, which is Nature's Heritage, it starts with our seeds and our 10 years worth of accumulating the best genetics. It starts with our growing methods, where we have individuals assigned to certain rooms and responsible for those plants. If my growers were here, we tell them to love every plant. And instead of doing some of the automated technologies of using, we use full plants, and we put our love into each and every plant. That sort of consistency in environmental systems with a little technology has made our Nature's Heritage flower and concentrates the top sellers in every state that we're in. So when we get to infused products, Betty's Eddies is killing it. We have a taffy and improved SKUs. We've created a consistent product that wins the trust. Our Betty's Bedtime is the top products in Maryland and Massachusetts, and now we're expanding our licensing program into 6 to 7 states. We just added a consultant who hopefully will be our CMO shortly, a guy named Robert Hall, who was the CMO at Boston Beverage. Sam Adams developed the Truly brand of seltzer, and he's now expanding our marketing and branding division so that we can take it across the country. So at the end of the day, I've said it's all about branding, distribution, and earning the trust of customers. I think the Warner deal that everybody heard about this morning with Canopy Growth just tells you the importance that some people with lots of money think about brands. I'd like to say that our Betty's Eddies outsells Warner in the 2 states we go against them, in Massachusetts and Maryland. So the future of branding is everything. Trusted customer, providing products that fulfill the needs of what they want, staying ahead in science, innovation. We're coming out with Vibrations, which is a power energy drink powder that you can add to anything. And we just announced our vegan EMAC and Bolio partnership for infused ice cream.
Nice. Good job. Well, you know, one of the things that Bob brought out, which I think is incredibly important, is he builds brands for the consumers. He doesn't make the consumer conform to an old school brand. When I got in the industry 5 years ago and you 10 years ago, you had a lot of people who were evangelizing and was trying to force the customer to become a stoner. Bob and other leading companies who do very well are saying, here's the customer, let me build something that you're comfortable with. And what that's going to translate to is Walgreens, Walmart, Target, Amazon, as it becomes more federally legal. And that will be a huge difference. So good for you. And kind of transitioning to that, so what do you think about, I mean, with the news this morning and everything, let's look at the macro level. What's your idea of the macro level of the industry?
On a large level, macro, I mean, the industry is thriving. It's increasing. There's been some decrease in the sale of marijuana over the last quarter or so across the country, but I think it's seasonal. I think it was great that during COVID, marijuana was mostly in every state deemed an essential industry, and that allowed us, as you said earlier, to expand our operations while the country was going through a lot of trouble and still is. That being said, we're very cognizant of what's going on in Washington. We had hoped that the Congress could get something done with the safe banking and the decriminalization. We had hoped that Senator Schumer, early this year, before he had infrastructure issues, would have passed safe banking. MariMed on ourselves, that sort of would give us a path to NASDAQ, where we could be with basically being on a larger exchange and not having to consider dual listing in Canada. That being said, we now need to consider dual listing, and we are. We need to get more liquidity and more investors into our stock. OTC has been great for us. We're well performing on it, but we need to be at a bigger exchange. I think so. When you look at us and our operating efficiencies and our highest margins in the industry, no matter what happens in Washington, MariMed will be profitable and work within infrastructure. We just hope the feds protect the industry that spent so much money and protects the states that created it.
Well, and I think you have a lot of governors who are going to do that because it's a very important amount of money. So not that we're asking proprietary information, but you know, playing a journalist on stage. So Bob, you have a lot of information. Do you think COVID brought a lot of new people into being more comfortable using marijuana to reduce their stress, to help them relax? And do you think it spawned a new generation of users?
I do. People at home we had the better opportunity. I mean, obviously the stress. I think marijuana is becoming more mainstream. I think the early and new adapters, a lot of the women, are looking for microdosing, which is what become a big thing. I mean, the stoners will be the stoners. But if I could have a taffy or a liquid drink that I knew is consistent, that I know what happens to me with a martini or a scotch, I think there's a whole new adapters of women and other trying marijuana for the first time. And I think as people see it being legalized in now over 8 states in the district, people are getting more comfortable that it's not going to hurt them. We still need a consistent product, the same every time. No mother wants to try a chocolate and think she's going to be in comatose under the table for 8 hours hoping she lives. It needs to be consistent. It needs to have trust. And that's what MariMed we build into all our products.
Just remember, if you get too stoned, you can go to Fresh Toast and see our story, How to Come Down from a High. But you are correct.
That's a good story.
It's a very popular story on Sundays. Every Sunday, that's one of our best stories. But you bring up a good point. When you look at, like, within your own social circle, over the years, things have become more accepted. You might say that weeds come out of the closet from people who traditionally you wouldn't have expected, who might have been wine drinkers or so forth. But you're seeing more both anecdotal and data information that, especially earlier in the week, there's transition from high-calorie alcohol to something that gives you a little bit of a bump, like a beverage, that calms you down without doing it and allows you to take that edge off of Mondays. So who knows, maybe in 3 years we'll see Garfield having lasagna and maybe a Betty's Eddy on a Monday in a cartoon.
That would be a great cartoon and a better reality when it happens in our lives.
Yeah, and one of the things, Bob is, really a mainline attorney who jumped into this area. And we talked earlier about Fox News. Fox News has been great on culture wars, and they have transitioned primarily from covering cannabis to covering it as a business issue in their business news. And that goes to show how the country is moving that direction, which is giving Congress a bigger cover to begin making some changes. Unfortunately, like you said earlier with Schumer, we have infrastructure, we still have COVID. Once those issues get done, you'll see cannabis move into a different area. We were the only company credentialed to cover the only cannabis company credentialed to cover all the presidential debates. So we work closely with some key government agencies and we talk about it, and slowly but surely it goes, but it's still a process. Hey, look, before we go, because you've given a lot of great information today, let's just talk a little bit. What's the takeaway that you want them to think about you and MariMed? What do you want them to talk about over lunch?
What's for lunch? MariMed, I'd like you to all take away that we're a unique MSO. We've been organically put together by a team that's validated in the state for 10 years. We built all of the facilities ourselves. We won the licenses, we built the buildings, we developed the systems, we've trained the workforce. We haven't grown by assimilating other businesses, by raising a lot of money and putting stakes in these different states and hoping to try to assimilate them. We have a transformation year by putting 2 of the 5 states that we run in there. We've now doubled our revenue from 2020 to 21. And if we can finish our consolidation plan and our strategic growth plan, we'll do at least that better for the next year. We're profitable, we're cash flow positive. We have capital in the bank from an investor, so we have the funds to complete all our CapEx and execute on our strategic growth plan. So I think our issue is getting our message out. We're adding to our bench strength. I just said we added in our marketing. We've added to our C-suite. We're looking to upgrade and to be in more states through M&A. So we're very financially disciplined. We don't overpay, and we like to make money with people. The final message is our stock is maintained going up while the industry stocks seem to go down. We still think we're undervalued with the lowest multiple against some of our peers that aren't as profitable as we are. So we're out here, and thank Benzinga and thank you, JJ, for telling the story of MariMed, and we think we're a great investment for anyone who wants to ride with us. Thank you so much.
Well, but just remember, during lunch and throughout the day, please take time to come up, ask Bob and his great team questions. There's a lot of learnings, and who knows, maybe you could do some business together. So excellent work. Let's give him a round of applause.